Born in Pranpura in Rewari, Haryana and 39 years of age, the US has now offered details about the former Indian government employee Vikash Yadav, who is wanted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the foiled assassination plot of Gurpatwant Singh Pannun. The indictment by the US says Yadav also goes by the alias of Vikas and Amanat. It also says Yadav is a citizen and resident of India. During times relevant to this indictment, Yadav was employed by the Cabinet Secretariat of the Government of India, which houses India's Foreign Intelligence Service, the Research and Analysis Wing. This is what the US indictment is saying. It also says that RAW is an arm of the Cabinet Secretariat, and Yadav has described his position as a senior field officer with responsibilities in security management and intelligence, and that he has listed his employer's address as the CGO complex in New Delhi, where RAW is headquartered. These are all the claims made in the US indictment, which goes on to also say that Yadav has served in India's Central Reserve Police Force, which is India's largest paramilitary force. The US also says that Yadav has described his position there as an assistant commandant with command of a 135-member company, that he has reported receiving counterintelligence, battlecraft, weapons and paratrooper training. The US indictment has also published a picture of Yadav in military fatigues. India, however, has maintained that Yadav may have acted on his own accord and that he has been expelled from service. The US in a statement earlier said that Yadav remains at large. The indictment also describes Pannun as a victim, as an attorney and as a political activist. But the indictment does not point to the Indian government hand in this plot. The indictment claims that the plot was to lure Pannun to a place where he could be easily executed, but later the plan changed amid urgency to target Pannun at his house, office or the cafe he visited. A victim, an attorney, a political activist. This is how the US has described Gurpatwant Singh Pannun in a long indictment document regarding a plot to allegedly assassinate him. The indictment goes largely silent on his subversive activities from US soil, though, against India, like his death threats to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The indictment document does not point to any Indian government hand in the assassination plot, largely pinning the blame on a former government official, Vikash Yadav, and a private individual, Nikhil Gupta. This is in stark contrast to the Canadian government's stance of directly blaming the Indian government for alleged assassination plots in Canada without furnishing any credible proof. India has said that Yadav acted on his own accord and that India is cooperating with the US. The US indictment interestingly claims that the initial plan of Yadav and Gupta was to approach Pannun under the guise of obtaining legal advice and lure him to a place where he could be more easily executed. But later the plan changed to target Pannun at his house, office or the cafe he visited. US claims it foiled the assassination plot by arresting Gupta in Czech Republic. Visual evidence in the form of money exchanging hands and advance payment and electronic evidence is a part of the indictment. Well, the victim is a vocal critic of the government and India and leads a US-based organization that advocates for the secession of Punjab. This is what the US indictment also says about Pannun. It says Punjab is home to a large population of Sikhs and says that Pannun has publicly called for some or all of Punjab to secede from India and establish a Sikh sovereign state called Khalistan. The government of India has banned Pannun and his separatist organization from India. The plot went wrong. Well, the indictment claims Yadav involved Gupta in the plot, who in turn contacted a criminal associate in the US who was in fact a confidential source working with the US law enforcement authorities. The assistance of this source was allegedly sought to contract a hitman for the job, and this source put Gupta in touch with an undercover US law enforcement officer. The deal was struck at $1 lakh and $1,15,000 was paid in advance on June 9 to this hitman through an associate of Yadav. Is this what an indictment is allegedly claiming? Gupta is described by the US as someone involved in international narcotics and weapons trafficking. The indictment makes it clear that the US through the entire operation was building up evidence against Yadav and Gupta regarding the assassination plot, which has now been revealed in the document. Pannun's home address, phone numbers and details about his day-to-day conduct were shared by Yadav with Gupta and passed on to the hitman, the indictment says. There was a change in the plan in June, though. While the initial plan was to lure Pannun to a place where he could be easily executed, the indictment says that there was an element of urgency in June as Yadav and Gupta were pressing the confidential source in US and the hitman to finish the job and don't take much time. A GPS application was used to do surveillance on Pannun. The indictment claims the US also says that the plan was further accelerated after the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada on June 18, who was a close associate of Pannun. The indictment says that the hitman was told to then go ahead and eliminate Pannun even today or tomorrow and as early as possible. Nikhil Gupta allegedly told the hitman to expect Pannun to be more careful in the wake of the Nijjar murder. This is what the US indictment is claiming. All this comes up in a very, very entangled plot which the US is now claiming was done by a former Indian government official to target Pannun on US soil.